I mean, most countries seem to be banning puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. But still, in the UK, and you guys have covered this at Sex Matters, of course, there's still this new trial happening, the Pathways study trial, which you mentioned earlier, out of King's College, which aims to follow, I believe, 226 minors on puberty blockers for a couple of years to, see what happens. It's like, what more information do you need? Why is this study happening? What are they trying to do?
Yeah, well, when you read the protocol in detail, you're none the wiser, because in 2 years, how can they possibly address the problems of puberty blockers? We know already that if you tell kids that they can change sex and what has to happen is they don't go through the wrong puberty, they get very distressed while they wait for those drugs. And when they get those drugs, they think that solves their problem. But they're still children. And 2 years after they get those drugs, they'll still be children. And the real harm, what they've lost, they will not know. And the fact that they could have grown out of this with an intact body and grown up to be fully functioning sexual beings, able to experience sexual pleasure, able to be fertile, whether gay or straight, they won't know that because they've had their puberty blocked, and that affects their brains too, of course. So that is what this puberty blockers trial will do. They're going to put half these kids on puberty blockers right away, and the other half they're going to delay for 12 months. And after 24 months, they're going to review. And we know what they'll find. They'll find that the children who had to wait 12 months will be really upset about that, but then they'll be happy. And the children who got their blockers will still be probably happy because they're only 2 years in, and some of them will still only be 12 or 13. So it's quite extraordinary. Why is it happening? Well, as you know, we had the CAS review that took 4 years and was very thorough and, researched tons of all the evidence they could possibly find and everything else. And we all welcomed that review because almost everything in it was really constructive. It recognized that social transition isn't a neutral intervention, because if you tell a little child that, a little boy, he's really a girl and he can be a girl, and everyone around him who loves him and that he trusts tells him that, well, he's going to look at male puberty with horror, isn't he? So he's going to believe that he can really be a girl. So, social transition's quite damaging. And Stephanie had understood that for some time, but the Cass review, Dr. Cass kind of acknowledged that. It was out of that review that a lot of positive things happened. The recognition there was no good evidence for puberty blockers. It was immediately stopped when we had an election and we changed from a Conservative to a Labour government. They still upheld the ban. So a lot of children who might otherwise be on blockers in the UK are not on them. Now, obviously, some people think that's a problem because they've been misled. They've been told all that stuff. But we know that's a good thing. The one thing that was in the Cass review that was troubling was her saying there isn't good evidence. The evidence for the use of these blockers is remarkably weak, and there ought to be a trial. And that's where we are. And honestly, we all welcomed the Cass review and kind of thought, surely they can never approve a trial. Surely a trial can never be ethical, because there are around 2,000 children in the UK who've already been given puberty blockers over the 15 years or 10 years that the Gender Identity Clinic was operating. There are around 2,000. And so part of the CAS review was to say, look at what's happened to those children, follow that population, go back, get their adult records now, work out the impact. That never happened because the adult gender clinics wouldn't cooperate. It's kind of unbelievable. They refused. They wouldn't share their data. And even though it was discussed in Parliament, and even though the health secretary, the head of the Department of Health at the time, made special legal provision for the data to be disclosed, it would all be anonymized, but you'd be able to match up a child record with an adult record so that you could trace the outcomes. It never happened. So I think that, I thought that, although Cass said, well, maybe there should be a trial, I kind of thought it would never happen, because I just thought it couldn't be ethical and they can get what they need this other way. But here we are. And so I must conclude that there are lots of activists in our National Health Service who really want to resume giving puberty blockers, and the trial is the vehicle they will use to do that. And at the end of 2 years, what, you know, it's going to say these children are relieved that they didn't go through puberty. They're happy.
Yeah.
But we know that's not the right point to measure the outcome for those poor kids.